Hello, and welcome to TerraNash. I'm Aiden, your narrator for tonight. Let's take this time together to step away from the rush of the day, find a comfortable space, and ease into a world of dreams and wonder. As we settle in, allow yourself to relax. Close your eyes if you'd like, and take a deep breath in and out. Feel the tension in your body begin to melt away with each gentle exhale. Let go of the worries of the day and be present in this moment, here with me, as we prepare to embark on a calming journey together. Tonight, I have a special story to share with you. A tale of wind, peace, and trust. It's a story of Māhina, a child who learns the profound wisdom of Tāwhirimātea, the Māori god of winds. Through gentle whispers and the rhythms of nature, Māhina discovers how to surrender to the flow of life, finding serenity amidst life's storms. But before we begin, we'd love to hear from you. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it as you settle in? Take a moment to share with us in the comments below. We'd love to know. We also welcome your thoughts and suggestions for future stories, as they inspire us to create more stories you'll enjoy. If you'd like to join our community for more, consider visiting our Patreon. You'll get early access to all our stories, as well as a curated Spotify playlist to complement your relaxation. Oh, and I wanted to share a little update with you. Currently, less than 10% of our viewers are subscribed to the channel, meaning more than 90% of you haven't subscribed yet. If you've been enjoying our bedtime stories, subscribing is a simple and free way to support us. With 1,000 subscribers, we can remove all mid-roll ads, giving you a completely uninterrupted and peaceful experience. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can make TerraNash an even more tranquil place for storytelling. Now, I invite you to relax even deeper. Let the outside world fade away, leaving only the soft embrace of comfort around you. Feel the weight of your body settle into the space you're in. Let your breath be slow and steady, the rise and fall of your chest matching the calm rhythm of the night. And as you do, let the words of the wind carry you away, drawing you into the story of Māhina and the lessons she learned from Tāwhirimātea. It's time to let go and drift with the wind. The sun was slipping away behind the hills, painting the sky in soft strokes of rose and gold. Birds called out their final songs of the day, and the trees stretched their shadows across the ground as if preparing to sleep. In a quiet village, nestled between the forest and the sea, a little girl named Māhina sat on the steps of her ware. Her legs were tucked under her, and her eyes followed the drifting clouds above. She liked this time best, the in-between, not quite day, not yet night. Everything seemed to slow down, as if the world were taking a deep breath. Then it came. A breeze. Not loud or sudden, but gentle. Soft as a sigh, cool as a whispered secret. It slipped around Māhina's shoulders like a shawl and tickled the hairs on her arms. It rustled the flax leaves in the garden and sent the tall grass swaying in a rhythm only it could hear. Māhina smiled. She had always felt something special when the wind passed by. It wasn't just air. It felt alive. It carried smells from faraway places and sounds that didn't belong to her village. Salt from the sea, smoke from a distant fire, the distant hush of waves on rock. It was as if the wind remembered things no one else could. Tonight, it felt different. It swirled around her ankles, then rose up to tug lightly at her hair. Playful, but purposeful. It circled once, twice, then seemed to drift toward the edge of the trees, pausing just long enough to make Māhina curious. She stood, brushing dust from her dress. The wind returned, this time slower, wrapping around her like a question. She took a step, then another. The breeze moved ahead, waiting. Behind her, the village was quiet. Her mother would be lighting the lanterns. Her brothers would be washing up for supper. But something in her heart told her this moment was meant to be followed. This was a path not made of footsteps, but of feeling. And so, with the hush of twilight all around her, Māhina followed the wind, not knowing where it would take her, only knowing that it knew her name. Māhina stepped softly through the tall grass, her bare feet sinking into the cool earth with each careful stride. The wind moved just ahead of her, not rushing, not pulling, simply waiting, like an old friend who knows you'll follow when you're ready. The sky had deepened into shades of lavender and deep blue. Stars blinked into view one by one, like tiny lanterns lit by invisible hands. The moon, round and pale, was beginning its slow rise above the forest. Everything felt hushed and expectant, as though the night itself had paused to listen. The wind slipped through the branches of the trees, coaxing them into quiet song. Māhina heard them, leaves rustling gently above her, a low whisper between trunks, like voices too ancient to use words. She paused for a moment, placing her hand on the bark of a tall totara tree. It felt warm from the day's sun, but it hummed softly with the touch of the wind. Māhina closed her eyes. "Come with me," the wind seemed to say. "There is more to see, more to feel, if you listen." So she listened, not with her ears, but with the space behind her thoughts, the soft place where dreams and knowing live. And in that space, the wind's message became clear, not through words, but through comfort, through calm. It was not calling her away, but calling her deeper, deeper into the heart of the night, into the stories carried by air, into something greater than herself. Māhina smiled again, her heart lighter now, She crossed a stream where the water laughed over smooth stones. She stepped beneath branches that reached down like arms to greet her. She climbed a gentle slope until the trees began to thin and the stars opened above like a sky made of wishes. Still, the wind danced beside her. It swirled around her ankles and fluttered her dress. Always near, always watching. It no longer felt like a breeze, but a presence. Kind, ancient, patient. And when Māhina reached the top of the hill, she stood very still. The wind wrapped around her once more, this time with more care, more stillness, like a hush before something sacred. She closed her eyes. She breathed in the night, and she waited for the wind to show her what came next. Māhina stood at the top of the hill, her chest rising and falling with the rhythm of the wind. Around her, the night had deepened into a velvet blue, soft and endless. The stars above were brighter here, closer, it seemed, like glitter scattered by a kind hand. The moon had climbed higher, bathing the hill in silvery light. The shadows it cast were long but gentle, never sharp or frightening. Everything shimmered in stillness. The breeze slowed, no longer tugging or urging her forward. It wrapped around her like a warm blanket, as if to say, "Now, just be." Māhina sat down in the soft grass, drawing her knees to her chest. She tilted her head to the sky, eyes wide and quiet. The stars blinked overhead in slow, patient patterns. Some sparkled, others pulsed, and a few seemed to glide ever so slightly, as if dancing across a dream only the wind could tell. She listened. The night didn't speak in voices, but in feelings, gentle swells of calm that moved through her chest like the tide. She could feel the stories hanging in the air, stories the wind carried from mountaintops, from oceans, from the hearts of people fast asleep in their homes. There were no words, not really, just impressions. A mother's lullaby sung from a porch by the sea. A lonely child whispering a wish into their pillow. The hush of waves greeting the shore. Again and again. All of it floated past her, through her, as if the wind trusted her with these tiny pieces of the world. And still, she listened. With every breath, her worries seemed to slip further away. She wasn't thinking about tomorrow or yesterday, not about questions she couldn't answer, or fears too big to name. She was simply here, in this moment, beneath this sky, with the wind. Something shifted, just slightly. The breeze that had felt like a friend now felt like a guide. Māhina could sense it gathering itself again, not with urgency, but with purpose. It brushed past her shoulder and drifted toward a stand of trees at the edge of the hill. She rose quietly, brushing grass from her dress. The wind waited, and then, as if walking into a story that was already being written. Māhina stepped forward. Beneath the stars, beneath the moon, beneath the watchful eye of something ancient and kind. And far ahead, in the place where shadow met starlight, the wind began to take shape. Māhina stepped gently between the trees, where the moonlight filtered through the leaves in soft, dappled patches. The wind had slowed, its playful tug now turned into something deeper, steady, quiet, purposeful. The forest here was hushed, but not empty. It was filled with the kind of silence that breathes, a silence that listens. The trees stood tall and still, their branches swaying just slightly, as if they too were waiting for something to arrive. Māhina felt it before she saw it. A presence, something older than the trees, older than the stars. It moved not with footsteps, but with breath. A stirring in the air, a weightless shimmer. Then, from within the night, the wind gathered. Leaves lifted from the forest floor and danced in a slow spiral. Mist rose from the roots of the trees and coiled upward like silver smoke. The air thickened, not heavy, but full, as though it carried an ancient memory. And then he was there, Tāwhirimātea. He did not arrive with thunder or roar. He arrived with stillness. His form was woven from mist and wind, his cloak made of drifting cloud, his hair like strands of rain swept sideways by the sky. His eyes, if they were eyes, glimmered like starlight glimpsed through fog. Māhina did not run. She did not hide. Her heart beat quietly, calmly, as though it had always known this meeting would come. The god of winds did not speak with a mouth. Instead, the air around Māhina filled with warmth and sound, like a low hum, like breath across a flute. And somehow, she understood. You followed. The thoughts settled into her like a feather landing on still water. She nodded. I listened. Tāwhirimātea stepped closer, though his feet never touched the ground. The breeze around Māhina shifted, less like wind, more like touch, like memory. Why do you walk with me, little one? The wind asked. She thought for a moment, then answered softly, because something inside me needed to. And when you called, it felt like I was being remembered. A long pause. The trees rustled. The mist swirled. Then the wind answered, not with sound, but with feeling. You have come far, but you carry more than your footsteps. Māhina's breath caught. She didn't know how he knew. The small worries she kept in her chest. The questions that lingered in her mind before she fell asleep. The ache of things changing that she could not stop. You do not need to hold it all, came the whisper. And then, without a word, Tāwhirimātea extended his hand. If it could be called a hand, for it was more like the shape of breeze. He turned, drifting slowly between the trees, deeper into the forest. Māhina followed, not because she had to, but because her heart was ready. The wind carried her forward, not behind, not beside, but within it. Together, they disappeared into the night, into the hush, into the quiet story that only the wind could tell. The forest gave way to an open clearing, a circle of earth untouched by shadow, where the moon shone full and bright above. Māhina stepped into the clearing, the grass cool beneath her feet, the air filled with a hush that felt sacred. Tāwhirimātea stood at the center, his form shifting and flowing, like morning fog caught in sunlight. Around him, the breeze stirred once more, rising, circling, alive. Māhina stood just outside the circle, watching, listening. Then the winds began to move. Not wildly, not fast. They moved with grace, like dancers in a rhythm older than time. One current brushed across the treetops, lifting their leaves in a slow ripple. Another spiraled up toward the stars, catching particles of light and scattering them like dust. A third wound its way around Māhina's feet, soft and steady, inviting her to feel rather than see. Tāwhirimātea raised his arms, and the winds obeyed. Each breeze had its own voice, one low like a flute, one high like chimes, one warm and slow like breath before sleep. Every wind has its path, the voice came, not spoken, but felt. Even the gentlest breeze follows the shape of the world. Even stillness has a direction. Māhina stood still, her eyes wide with wonder. She had never thought of wind this way, not just as something that moved leaves or cooled the skin, but as something with purpose, with rhythm, with wisdom. The winds circled faster now, weaving in and out of one another, but never colliding. They flowed like a song with no beginning and no end. One breeze dipped close to her cheek, carrying the scent of blossoms from far away. Another wrapped gently around her hand, like a friend she'd just met, but already trusted. She stepped forward. The winds welcomed her. One current lifted the hem of her dress. Another brushed her hair back from her face. Tāwhirimātea watched, silent and still, his presence no less powerful for its calm. Māhina raised her arms, slowly, carefully, and the wind responded, rising beneath her palms like water, flowing with her movement. She twirled, just once, and laughed softly as the breeze danced with her, twirling too. "You are part of it," the wind said. "Not in words, but in feeling. You are not separate from the air or the trees or the stars. You belong to the rhythm, just as the rhythm belongs to you." And Māhina felt it, in her chest, in her breath, in the way her heartbeat began to slow, matching the tempo of the world around her. For a moment, there was no fear, no weight, no worry, only movement, only peace. The dance slowed. The wind settled. The forest, the clearing, the stars. Everything breathed in unison. Tāwhirimātea stepped forward. From within his swirling cloak, he drew a single feather, light as cloud, glistening with mist. He placed it in Māhina's hands. "This is not for holding," the wind said gently. "It is for remembering." She cradled it close to her heart, and the wind, now quiet, guided her once more, this time into herself. The clearing was still, the air thick with peace. But Māhina's heart was not still. Her thoughts swirled, like the winds that had carried her here. Beneath the calm of the night, she could feel something inside her stirring. Something that had been waiting. Something she couldn't name. The feather Tāwhirimātea had given her rested lightly in her hand. A symbol of peace, yet she felt a weight in her chest. There was something she had to face. Something she had been carrying with her for as long as she could remember. The wind seemed to sense it. Tāwhirimātea had watched her, his form ever changing. But his eyes, if they could be called eyes, were steady, full of knowing. Slowly, he stepped closer, as if urging her to look inward. "What do you hold?" the wind asked gently, not as a question, but as a reminder. Māhina took a deep breath, her fingers curling around the delicate feather. She could feel the beat of her heart in her throat, in her stomach, in the tips of her fingers. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice barely a murmur, as if the air itself might carry her words away. "I feel like there is so much inside me, so much I can't say." The wind paused, wrapping itself around her like a soft embrace. It wasn't judging, wasn't pushing, just waiting, like the quiet space between breaths. The wind knew that feeling, knew that weight. "We all carry storms." Tāwhirimātea's voice came again, calm and steady. "Not the thunder that rages on the mountains or the lightning that splits the sky, but the storms that are made of our own fears, our own doubts. Those storms can be loud or soft. They can be hidden or loud enough to shake the world. But all storms pass." Māhina closed her eyes, letting the wind's words settle into her, like raindrops sinking into the soil. The moment she closed her eyes, she saw it. No, she felt it. A storm. A swirl of winds inside her heart, fast and wild. A tornado of thoughts she couldn't control. Her mother's voice, her brothers laughing. The feeling of being small in a world so large. The worry of the unknown, the fear of things changing. the ache of longing for something that was never hers to hold. The storm spun inside her, swirling faster, louder, until it felt as though it would pull her apart. Her chest tightened, her breath caught, her heart raced. "You don't have to hold it," the wind whispered again, this time softer, more persistent. "Let it move through you. Let it pass." But how could she? She had always held her worries close, always tried to keep them inside, thinking that if she held them tight enough, they would go away. She had always kept the storm locked in her chest, thinking that if she ignored it, it wouldn't exist. But now, in the quiet of the night, in the presence of the wind, she couldn't deny it any longer. Her storm was there, and it was real. Tāwhirimātea watched her, his form a swirl of mist and moonlight. The wind cannot be stopped. It must flow. Just as your heart cannot hold everything, you must let go to feel the peace you seek. Māhina took a shaky breath. She didn't know if she was ready, but something in her told her she had to try. With a gentle motion, she let the feather slip from her hand, watching as it caught the wind and fluttered upward, rising on the current, carried away by the very breeze that had brought her here. And for the first time, she let the storm inside her go. She let the winds carry her fear, her doubt, her sorrow. She let it all float into the night, into the world, to be carried far away. The storm within her did not vanish all at once. It did not disappear in an instant. But the air felt different now, lighter, quieter. And in that quiet, she could feel a soft peace taking its place. The wind whispered its approval, its voice a soft hum, like a lullaby. "You are free," it said, "not with force, but with love. Let the winds show you how." And as Māhina stood in the stillness, she felt something she had never known before, a lightness in her heart, a quiet space where there had once been only noise. The storm wasn't gone, but it no longer had the power to pull her under. It would pass, as all storms do, and for now, she was safe. The night held its breath. The air was still, as if the entire world had paused in reverence. The wind, now quiet, caressed Māhina's face with a gentle, steady warmth. Her heartbeat, once quick and frantic, had slowed to a soft rhythm. The storm that had once raged within her had calmed, and she stood in the eye of it, the world around her now peaceful and clear. For the first time in what felt like forever, Māhina could breathe fully, without the tightness in her chest, without the fear of the unknown. There was no rushing wind, no howling doubts, only the soft embrace of silence. Tāwhirimātea, still as a statue, stood beside her. His presence, though ever-changing and mysterious, had become a grounding force. Like the wind itself, he didn't need to speak in loud declarations. His stillness was enough to offer comfort. Māhina turned her gaze to the sky. The stars were brighter than ever now, each one a steady flame against the vast, dark canvas of the night. The moon, full and silver, bathed the clearing in a gentle glow, casting shadows that seemed to sway and breathe like the trees themselves. And in that moment, Māhina understood. The storm she had carried inside her was not something to fear. It was simply part of the flow, like the winds that came and went. The storm had a purpose. It moved her. It shifted her. It brought her to this moment, to this clarity. And now, in the stillness, she could see the truth she had been seeking. The winds of her heart had always been there, always moving, always changing. And just as the wind could not be controlled, neither could her emotions. But just as the wind moved on when it was ready, so too would her fears, her doubts, her worries. They would pass. She was not her storm. She was the calm. "You are learning," Tāwhirimātea's voice whispered, not in words, but in the deep, quiet hum of the air around her. "The storm within you will always come, but it will not last. And when it passes, there is always peace." Māhina closed her eyes, letting the wind's wisdom settle deep within her. She could feel the edges of her doubts softening, like clouds drifting across the sky. She could feel the worries that had once seemed so heavy now lightening, floating away like leaves carried on a breeze. And in the peace that followed, she knew the truth of the wind, that just as it always found its way, so too would she. The storm would pass, the winds would return, and she would be there, waiting, ready to embrace whatever came next. The soft whisper of the wind surrounded her once more, wrapping her in warmth and light. "Trust the rhythm," Tāwhirimātea's voice came again, gentle as the breeze. "The world moves as it should, and you, little one, are part of that dance." Māhina smiled, the last weight lifting from her chest. She felt lighter now, as if the very air had become a part of her. With the wind as her guide, she knew she could face whatever came, whether it was a storm or a breeze, a shadow or a star. For now, in this moment, there was only peace, and peace was enough. The wind was gentler now, a soft sigh through the trees as the world around Māhina began to shift. The moon still hung high above, but now it was time for her to return. Tāwhirimātea had shown her the dance of the winds, the rhythm of the world, the quiet that followed the storm. And now, with the wisdom of the night wrapped around her like a blanket, she was ready to take that peace with her. The clearing began to fade into the distance, the soft mist lifting like the last remnants of a dream. Māhina turned, her feet light against the earth as she walked back toward the path that would lead her home. The world, though the same as it had been before, now felt different. The air was clearer, the stars brighter. She felt the pull of the familiar, but no longer with the weight of worry. As she walked, the wind, her constant companion, circled gently around her. It wasn't the strong force it had been before, but a comforting presence, like the quiet murmur of a lullaby. You carry the peace now, Tāwhirimātea's voice whispered, woven into the wind. It is yours to share, and with it, you will always find your way. Māhina smiled to herself, the sound of her steps soft on the earth. She was no longer afraid of the unknown. She knew now that everything, even the darkest storm, was a part of the rhythm of the world. And within that rhythm, there was peace. If only she could listen. The path home was not long, but as she walked, the land around her seemed to transform. The trees, once dark and looming, now stood like old friends, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. The night was no longer heavy with uncertainty, but soft, full of wonder. Every leaf, every blade of grass seemed to glow under the moonlight, as if the whole world were breathing with her. When she reached the edge of the forest, where the first signs of the village began to appear, Māhina paused. The lights of the village twinkled in the distance, warm and welcoming. The sounds of the night, distant voices, the call of a bird, the soft rustling of leaves, wrapped around her, not as an intrusion, but as a part of the same rhythm. She took a deep breath, letting the cool air fill her lungs, and for the first time, she felt the truth in Tāwhirimātea's words. The storm will pass. And just like that, the weight she had carried for so long, the worries, the fears, the doubts, everything she had been holding inside, began to lift. It wasn't gone. It wasn't forgotten. But it was no longer a burden. It was simply part of her story, part of the dance of life. With a final glance at the forest behind her, Māhina stepped onto the familiar path leading to her home. The wind, now a gentle guide, whispered around her as though saying, "You are ready." As she walked through the village gates, the faces of her family and friends greeted her. Their voices, full of warmth and love, filled the air, but they no longer felt overwhelming. She didn't feel as small as she once had. The rhythm of their words, the ebb and flow of their lives, was just another part of the dance, another part of the wind. Māhina smiled, her heart light. She had learned the most important lesson of all. The peace she had found was not something to be held tightly. It was something to move with, like the wind itself, gentle, free, ever-changing. And with that peace in her heart, She knew that whatever the future held, she would face it with the calm of the wind, trusting that the rhythm of life would carry her through. The wind, as always, was with her, and for the first time, she truly understood its song. The next morning, as the sun rose over the village, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Māhina woke with a sense of lightness in her heart. The world outside her window seemed clearer somehow, as though the very air was alive with possibility. She could still feel the touch of Tāwhirimātea's wind in her bones, the softness of its guidance lingering in her chest. The storm inside her had passed, and in its place was a quiet peace, one that she had come to understand was not just for her, but for everyone. As she stepped out into the village, the familiar sights and sounds welcomed her. The earthy smell of fresh bread baking from the communal oven, the murmur of voices as neighbors greeted each other, and the soft clink of tools from the blacksmith's forge filled the air. It was all the same, but now it felt different. She was different. Māhina walked through the village, her footsteps light and sure. Her mind, once clouded with uncertainty, was now clear. The winds had shown her that everything in life was part of a greater rhythm, just as the day follows the night, just as the waves follow the moon. She knew now that there was no need to carry the weight of fear or doubt. Life would flow as it was meant to, and all she needed to do was listen. She found her mother at the well, chatting with the village women. Her mother's face lit up when she saw Māhina, her eyes full of warmth and love. "Good morning, my girl," her mother said with a smile. "How was your walk last night?" Māhina paused for a moment, considering her answer. She had always been the quiet one, the one who kept her thoughts to herself. But now, with the peace of the winds in her heart, she felt a quiet certainty. "It was beautiful, Mama," she said softly, a gentle smile spreading across her face. "I learned something important, something that I think you might need to hear." Her mother raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What's that, dear?" Māhina took a deep breath, her voice steady. "I learned that life is like the wind. Sometimes we try to control it. We try to hold it close, keep it from changing. But the wind doesn't stop. It always moves, always shifts. And when we let go of the things that weigh us down, when we trust in the flow of life, we can find peace. It's like the calm after a storm. It's there for us if we let it in." Her mother's eyes softened, and she took Māhina's hands in hers. "My sweet girl," she said, her voice gentle. "I've always known you had wisdom beyond your years, but hearing it now, it's like I can feel the truth in your words. I've carried so many worries of my own, always thinking I could control everything, protect everyone. But perhaps, like you, I need to let go a little. I need to trust that the world will move as it should. Māhina nodded, her heart swelling with warmth. This was what she had been waiting for, to share what she had learned, to pass on the peace she had found. As the day wore on, Māhina shared her thoughts with others in the village. She spoke to the elders by the fire, to the children playing near the river, to the men and women working in the fields. She told them about the wind, the way it moved, the way it couldn't be controlled, but could always be trusted. Some listened with quiet reverence, their eyes wide with understanding. Others smiled knowingly, as though they had always known this truth deep inside themselves, but had simply forgotten it along the way. And as Māhina spoke, she could feel the wind again, though it was no longer a soft whisper. Now, it was a gentle hum that seemed to echo through the village, a song that connected them all. The more she shared, the lighter she felt. Each word, each lesson was a gift not just for her, but for everyone she loved. And as the sun began to set, painting the sky in its familiar colors, she realized something. The wind wasn't just a guide for her. It was a guide for everyone. And by sharing it, she had helped bring peace to her home. Her heart felt full, overflowing with gratitude. She looked up at the sky, the stars slowly beginning to twinkle, and smiled. The storm had passed. The winds had whispered their wisdom, and now the village was at peace, its rhythm softer, its people lighter, all of them moving in harmony with the world around them. And for the first time, Māhina truly understood what Tāwhirimātea had meant. Life would always flow, always change, and the winds would always carry them forward if they only knew how to trust it. The morning sun rose gently over the horizon, casting golden light over the village. The earth felt alive with the pulse of life, each breath of wind, each rustling leaf, every bird's song in the trees. The world, as it always had been, was full of movement, full of life. And for the first time, Māhina understood it all. As she walked through the village, the rhythms of life felt different. The chatter of her friends, the busy footsteps of the workers, the gentle hum of nature. It all seemed to move together in a beautiful, unspoken harmony. She had once tried to control everything, holding tight to every worry, every fear, thinking that if she could grasp them hard enough, she could hold life in place. But now, she knew better. Life could never be held still. It flowed just like the wind, sometimes gently, sometimes with force, but always moving. With each step she took, Māhina felt lighter. She was no longer burdened by the weight of trying to control everything. The lesson of Tāwhirimātea had settled into her heart, a truth that was now her own. She didn't need to understand all of life's mysteries, nor did she need to control every storm that came her way. She simply had to trust the rhythm, to let go of her fears and doubts, and to allow life to unfold as it was meant to. Her feet carried her to the edge of the village, where the land met the vast, open plains. The wind swept across the fields, soft and cool, a familiar and comforting presence. Māhina stopped, closing her eyes, and let the wind dance through her hair. She could feel it in her bones, that same rhythm, the pulse of the earth, the breath of the wind, the steady beat of her own heart. Everything moved. Everything changed. But it was all part of the same flow. Tāwhirimātea's words echoed in her mind, soft but clear. The world moves as it should, and you, little one, are part of that dance. Māhina smiled. She was part of it all, the great, ever-changing rhythm of life. And now, she didn't need to fight against it. She could move with it, trusting that wherever the winds took her, she would be ready. As she stood there, the wind carrying the scent of the sea, she realized that life was a series of moments, each one connected to the next. There would be storms, yes. There would be moments of doubt and fear, but there would also be calm. There would be times of peace and clarity when everything fell into place. And in between, there would be the quiet breath, the steady flow of life moving on. With a final breath, Māhina opened her eyes. The world was as it had always been. The sky was wide and infinite above her. The fields stretched out before her, full of promise. And she knew now that it was all a part of the dance. The wind whispered around her again, this time softer than ever before, like a secret shared between old friends. "You are ready now," the wind said. "The rhythm of life will carry you, always. Trust in it, and you will never be lost." And so, with that final whisper, Māhina stepped forward, her heart full and light. The journey was not over. There would always be more to learn, more to experience. But now she understood. The winds would always be with her, guiding her, moving with her. As she walked back toward the village, toward the people who loved her, Māhina knew that no matter where life would take her, she would face it with the calm and peace of the wind. For the first time, she was at peace with herself, with the world, and with the rhythm of life. She had learned to trust, to surrender to the flow, and in doing so, she had found her place in the dance of the world. The wind was her guide, her companion, her teacher. And with every step she took, Māhina felt herself moving forward, in harmony with the winds, in rhythm with life.